Opening day is next Thursday, and I'm going to tell you my full opening day roster projection on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger2. And welcome in to another episode of Locked On Marlins, your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comments section. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down the bullpen, the starting rotation, and the lineup to fill out the opening day roster, which is just a week away, guys. Opening day is next Thursday. Cannot wait for it. Sandy versus Skeens. It's going to be cinema on opening day. Must-watch baseball. So if you can, get out to the ballpark for that game in particular. But let's get right into it. I'm going to start with the rotation. I think it's pretty clear now that the starting rotation is set, at least with the injury of Edward Cabrera and the news that he's going to start the season on the injured list, dealing with that blister. It's clear he's not going to be in the rotation to start the season. And Connor Gillespie is my projection to take his spot. He started yesterday's game against, I believe, the Cardinals it was. And it was something where I personally thought they could go with Adam Major, but I know Adam Major will be up eventually. Valente Bayozo has already been optioned to AAA, and Connor Gillespie has impressed this spring training. So I think Connor Gillespie goes in and takes the spot of Edward Cabrera in the rotation. Everybody else is locks. So Sandy Alcantara, he'll start opening day. And then I expect it will be Cal Quantrill, Ryan Weathers, Connor Gillespie, which was Edward Cabrera's spot in the rotation, and then finally Max Meyer, who rounds out those starting five. Overall, the rotation looks to be a strong point for the Marlins in 25. The issue is the depth. I've talked about this before. We saw Edward Cabrera go down. Now it's Connor Gillespie. Pitching is very volatile, and I don't think it's any different with the Miami Marlins. I don't think this rotation is going to be the same rotation you see in August or September. It's not. There's going to be changes, but I feel really good about Sandy. I feel very good about Ryan Weathers, and I feel good about Max Meyer. So those three guys in particular, I think, can have very productive seasons. Cal Quantrill is a wild card because he's shown signs of being really productive a couple of years ago and then just kind of fell off a cliff. It's a good opportunity for him to rebound his career and be productive, eat innings. So hopefully the Marlins reap the benefits of that offseason acquisition, and Cal Quantrill pitches effective to start the season. Connor Gillespie, the same thing. Edward Cabrera, it was very inconsistent, and I'm sure he'll be back at some point in the rotation. Whether I agree with that or not, this is just a roster projection. I think Gillespie starts the year in the rotation, but he's not going to be in the rotation for the rest of the season. I mean, like I said, Adam Major, Robbie Snelling is another guy, Valente Bayozo. All these guys are close to Major League ready, if not Major League ready right now. So you're going to see multiple starters in the back half of the rotation. Now let's move on to the bullpen. Bullpen was tough to gauge because Andrew Nardi, who is the best left-hander that the Marlins have, and he's on the 40-man roster, he's dealing with a back injury. He suffered a setback this spring. He's not going to be ready anytime soon. He was actually placed on the 60-day injured list. So Andrew Nardi is nowhere close to to pitching in the major league games. So you can cancel him out for the time being. He'll be back eventually, but not soon. So Nardi's not going to be in the opening day on the opening day 26-man roster. He'll probably, hopefully, come back, late May if everything goes well. But right now, the locks that I have for the bullpen, the high leverage guys, I guess you could say, Calvin Fauché, Jesus Tinoco, Anthony Bender, and Declan Cronin. Those four guys, I do believe, are locks. There's no question about that. They're going to get the high leverage innings, whether it's a combination of Fauché and Tinoco in the closing role. Bender gets the 8th, Cronin gets the 7th. However that works, I don't know. I think new manager Clayton McCullough is going to experiment with it to start the season, figure out which role suits each pitcher best. There isn't the set closer. I've advocated for Calvin Fauché getting the closer role, but he hasn't really looked good this spring training. And quite honestly, a lot of these guys have struggled in spring training. Now, spring training results don't necessarily mean anything, but this is a bullpen that is entering a season when compared to last season, last opening day. A lot of these guys are going to have to step up and for an entire season carry the load of the back half of games, the 8th inning and the 9th inning in particular. So who steps up and establishes themselves as that high leverage, reliable bullpen arm? Now, Fauché's a righty, Tinoco's a righty, Bender's a righty, Cronin's a righty. All those high leverage arms I mentioned are all right-handers, which is a lot different from last year when the true high leverage arms were lefties, Tanner Scott and AJ Puck. And then Andrew Nardi also. He was a high leverage guy who, especially in 23, had a really good season. He was a left-hander. So it's kind of interesting how the Marlins are very right-handed heavy right now in the bullpen compared to prior seasons, last season and the year before in particular. But behind the locks, there's still guys competing for spots, and there's still non-roster invitees in camp. And so I have eight players, 8 pitchers in the bullpen right now. First one, that's not necessarily a lock, but I think is very clearly going to get a spot. Maybe not in the high leverage situations as Tinoco and Fauché, but Lake Bacher. Lake Bacher is somebody who's had a decent spring, this is now his second year in the organization, and he has pretty good stuff. So Lake Bacher, I think, another right-hander. Lake Bacher is going to make the bullpen. That's pitcher number 5. So 3 more to close it out. Still haven't mentioned the lefty. The lefty will come in Anthony Veneziano to start the season. Veneziano is he doesn't have the extreme stuff like AJ Puck or Tanner Scott, but he's a left-hander, and replacing Nardi, you have to have a lefty, if not 2 lefties, in the bullpen. Veneziano will take the place, that's my prediction, of Nardi to start the season. What I find really interesting, and it's tough to project, is if the Marlins will carry multiple left-handers. Will they carry 2 left-handers? Because there's a non-roster invitee, Josh Simpson, who has really good stuff. And he's in the rotation, or not the rotation, he's in spring training right now. And he throws really hard. He's got a really good off speed. He's a good strikeout machine, but he's not on the 40-man. So in order to get him on the 40-man, the Marlins would have to make some roster moves. Maybe DFA Seth Martinez, who they've already had twice now. This is his second stint of spring training. So if the Marlins feel comfortable rocking with one left-hander, then I don't think Josh Simpson necessarily makes the team. But if they want to get the second left-hander in, then Josh Simpson is my prediction to be that guy. Clayton McCullough has said he feels comfortable with right-handers attacking left-handers. And I don't necessarily think it's wise to enter a season with only one left-hander out of your bullpen, but it's a new age of baseball, and that's how some teams might do it, and that's how the Marlins might do it. So for now, the third spot or the seventh spot I have in the bullpen goes to Ronnie Enriquez, another right-hander. I'm taking him over George Soriano. I'm taking him over Seth Martinez. I think Ronnie Enriquez, he's an intriguing guy because he can go multiple innings, and we've seen that this spring training, Marlins pitchers going multiple innings at a time. So they're not just getting one inning, they're getting 2 innings. And I think that's interesting because you have a bullpen that's flexible and that you can rely on multiple guys to go multiple distances. It's not just one inning at a time, or it's not just in years prior the lefty specialist or the pitcher that would only come in for one section of the lineup and then leave. The Marlins want to see their pitchers be more versatile, and ultimately you have to cover 9 innings a game at least over 162 games. I think that's part of it. I think they want to have these guys built up in order to just eat the innings. You're going to have to get through it somehow, and you don't want to blow out your arm throwing multiple innings and so much work for multiple guys. So if you have guys like Enriquez who has starters experience in the past, it makes it easier on somebody like a Fauché or a Tinoco. It also makes it easier on the starting rotation. So if Max Meyer or Cal Quantrill go 5 innings, then Enriquez, or 4 innings, Enriquez can come in and get the next 2 or 3. So I think he makes the roster as that middle reliever type profile. And last guy I want to mention, he's a dark horse to make the roster, but I do predict Jansen Junk makes the opening day roster. Another one of those guys who can pitch multiple innings and who can have starters experience. He's gone multiple innings in this spring training as well, so he can be a middle reliever, but he has high octane stuff. You could just throw him in the 7th or 8th and let him go to work. He could also start. He could also start games. So I think that's a clear focal point for the Marlins this season, is having relievers who feel comfortable about pitching in for longer stretches of time. I think that's something they're looking toward. So all in all, the bullpen would consist of Calvin Fauché, Jesus Tinoco, Anthony Bender, Declan Cronin, Lake Bacher, Anthony Veneziano, Ronnie Enriquez, and Jansen Junk. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the opening day lineup. Who do I have penciled in right there? Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And also, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. There is nothing like the energy of an MLS match, the chants, the atmosphere, the last minute goals. If you want to experience it all live, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLS tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as kickoff gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. You'll love the fact that you can see the exact view from your seat before you buy, so there's no surprises when you get to the stadium. Gametime has event cancellation protection and even job loss assurance, so you can buy with confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. If you're an everyday listener, I do thank you for joining Locked On Marlins. If this is your first time, be sure to hit subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on the Marlins opening day roster. How do you think it will play out? Going into the lineup, I think the starters are pretty much set. I really do. The only question I have is catcher, because I think it could go either way between Liam Hicks and Nick Fortes. But I'm predicting Nick Fortes catches Sandy Alcantara on opening day. He's the incumbent starting catcher. I think he continues that streak um, of being the starter for another season until Hicks pushes him out of the way. But right now I have him as catcher. I have Matt Mervis at first base. I have Otto Lopez at second. Xavier Edwards at short, Connor Norby at third, and then left to right in the outfield, Dane Myers, Derek Hill, Griffin Conine. So the biggest difference or the biggest surprise is that Jesus Sanchez will not be an opening day. He suffered an oblique injury, so he'll be out for the first couple weeks of the season. So it really clears up the outfield, because now we know who's essentially going to get those roles. You're going to get multiple guys in the outfield. Also on the bench, I think Kyle Stowers is the odd man out. I think he starts on the bench. And the issue with Kyle Stowers right now is I just don't know if he's going to become a productive major league hitter. Now, I do predict he makes the opening day roster, but I don't think that he has warranted himself a starting role on this team. The Jesus Sanchez injury is going to allow for both Dane Myers and Derek Hill, who have had very impressive spring trainings, to play a lot. And I think Kyle Stowers could platoon with Derek Hill in particular, because Derek Hill just isn't good against left-handers. Or rather, he's not good against right-handers. Derek Hill's a righty bat, just complete opposite splits. So his splits against righties way worse than he is against lefties. Kyle Stowers swings from the left side of the plate. So I could see a scenario in which Kyle Stowers, gets those at-bats against righties. But overall, I don't feel good about him heading into this season. Now on the bench, I have Liam Hicks as catcher. You could flip-flop that, him and Nick Fortes. And then my utility guy, who can play multiple positions, both infield and outfield. He can play a little bit of center, and is somebody who I'm rooting for a lot, is Javier Sanoja. Javier Sanoja, great contact skills, doesn't strike out. He's going to put the bat on the ball, and he's somebody that is going to make his first opening day roster. I predicted that Ronnie Simon was a non-roster invite that could make the roster. I think he was the most likely to, and he gave himself a really good chance. But ultimately, the Marlins decided to reassign Ronnie Simon and Heriberto Hernandez, who is battling in the outfield for a spot. They're both going to minor league camp. They're cut from spring training. They won't be on the roster to start the season. So Sanoja is still in camp. Feels like he's good to go there. He's going to get plenty of at-bats. He's going to play all around the diamond, and he's going to get himself an extended opportunity in the show to essentially prove if he can be a valuable player. He feels like the Marlins' prototypical player they want to see defensively. They want to see guys who are versatile, and who can play multiple positions. Sanoha fits that mold to a T. So I do think Sanoha, you're going to see him on the opening day roster, and you're going to see him get plenty of starts throughout the season, whether that's at second, getting a shot there when Otto Lopez gets a day off, whether that's in the outfield, he's going to get time. And the final bench piece for the Marlins opening day roster is going to be Eric Wagaman. Eric Wagaman, he can play multiple positions, and he's a power threat. He was signed to a split contract, so he could have easily been in the minors. He has 3 options left. But right now with the Jesus Sanchez injury, that opened up a spot essentially for somebody unexpected to make the major league roster. And the fact that Wagaman is still in camp, and yesterday he had 2 more hits, he doubled. I think the Marlins like what they see with Wagaman, and he's somebody who can spell Mervis at first base, who can slide into the DH role, who can spell Norby at third, and who can actually play a corner outfield position as well. So Wagaman is my final prediction for the roster spot. The other player I think I forgot to mention, the designated hitter would be Jonah Bride. So Jonah Bride, Matt Mervis, Bride swings righty, Mervis swings from the left side. So they could platoon, and Wagaman could also platoon with Mervis if that's the case. If they're facing a tough left-hander, then you could have a situation in which Wagaman plays first and Bride is a designated hitter. So that's where I could see Wagaman get those starts. At least until Jesus Sanchez comes back, because I do think he's their most proven offensive player. And it's a detriment to the Marlins as a team if he's not on the field. But that's how I think the lineup shakes up. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, I think Stowers is the biggest question mark, because if he can't maintain consistent contact and he continues to struggle with fastballs and velocity, then he's not going to be a productive major league player. And the Marlins can't justify starting him or even rostering him at that point, when there's players in the minor leagues who could give them a better shot and better production. I mean, Stowers, I understand you get him in the Trevor Rogers trade, and you gave him plenty of at-bats in the second half of the season, and he played every single day, but he didn't do anything with it. And this spring training, it's been strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. So Stowers, I think, has a short leash on him. Do not be surprised if he's somebody who is replaced fairly early in the year if he doesn't prove himself. Again, this is a big prove it year for the Marlins as a team overall. A lot of these guys have to prove themselves that they belong in the major leagues. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about international free agency, how the Marlins should approach and do approach international scouting, and put an emphasis on a very important part of professional baseball. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Just Ingredients prioritize wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
A reminder, hit me up with any comments or questions you have for the show. Friday is the mailbag episode, so hit me up on X, Twitter handle, X handle, at Jeremiah Geiger 2, or you can message me in the YouTube comments. Leave a comment, and with your question, I'll get to what you have to say, and I'll do my best to answer them here on Locked On Marlins. The Marlins had a very impressive international free agency class this year. They signed Andrew Salas and Kevin DeFrank, both of whom were ranked in MLB.com's top 50 international prospects. Andrew Salas is definitely somebody who's at the top of the Marlins prospect rankings. He has a ton of potential. Kevin DeFrank, he's a pitcher who, as a teenager, is throwing really hard. He's got plenty of projection. I mean, when it comes to these younger international free agents, projection is key. You want to identify players who can continue to grow, continue to add strength, and the solid base that they have right now becomes even stronger in the future. So I really like those two guys in particular. But overall, it was a very strong international class. And moving forward, I think the Marlins need to continue that trend. They need to be a staple in identifying and developing international talent to the highest degree possible. So they have invested in the international approach. They have a DR Academy that opened in 2022, late in 2022. They have this really nice academy down there, and that's a very good investment that they have. And they need to continue their all-in approach on international free agency. Because the amateur draft is great and it's going to provide a lot of value, but so is the talent overseas. And you see teams who have great scouting departments continue to mine for talent in other countries. The Marlins have to be doing the same thing. I think it was a great first step that they did with this past offseason, and when they signed the international free agency class, and they have Andrew Salas now, they have Kevin DeFrank in their system, and that's adding to guys like Luis Cova or Andres Valor. The key for them not only is the scouting of the talent and investing in the resources like the academy in the Dominican Republic. It's about developing the talent. So how do you operate the complex league, the Florida Complex League? So the FCL Marlins, when these guys come stateside and they're not ready for Jupiter yet, but they're getting their reps in the complex league. You want that league to be running at a high level, everybody to be on the same page. So their development is accelerated, not rushed, but is smooth all the way through from complex league to AAA and then the majors. You want these guys to get every single resource possible so that they have the best opportunity to succeed. Because if you can't scout internationally, number one, then you're in trouble. But if you scout them and then bring them over to the States and they fail to develop them consistently, then it really doesn't matter anyway. I mean, at 16, 17 years old, these players are so far away from the major leagues that you're going to need to be patient, take your time, but implement a plan in order to get them there from point A to the final destination, which is Major League Baseball, Lone Depot Park. So it's going to be really interesting how this international free agency class turns out, because it was very highly ranked. It was impressive to see the Marlins go out there and get some top guys in the IFA class. And now how are you going to develop them in comparison to teams like the Dodgers or the Tampa Bay Rays? So that's the key moving forward. Scouting, yes, invest in your resources, but also focus on that development, because think about it, 3-4 years down the road, when these guys ultimately become top prospects, that can make or break a farm system. That can make a farm system become elite, or it can just be still in the middle of the pack. You supplement international free agency hits with the amateur draft and college guys, and of course high school guys, then we're talking a full-blown consistent operation in player development for the Marlins. So continue scouting, number one. You got to continue scouting and go after the biggest talent acquisitions that you can get. The high-end talent should be signed by the Marlins. They should be going after these guys. I loved what they did with Andrew Salas. They got to continue doing so moving forward. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Marlins. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And until next time, stay safe and let's go fish.